I think Leslie's in Michigan. She's in Western Michigan, right? Yeah.
All right. So I'll pray us in and we can get started. So I'm placing my hands on my heart. And I was just thinking too, maybe we can put in our either our WhatsApp chat or our Facebook chat where we're all from. Because wouldn't it be cool to like see each other in person if we could? You know, to the
One
great club.
day.
Nice. I know I keep thinking Franca's only like 6 hours away from me across the Canadian border, but anyway, one of these days. Placing my hands on my heart and taking that deep breath of love and gratitude. So grateful for this time to come together with these beautiful souls, grateful for our willingness to open our hearts and our minds to be the two or more who are gathered in the name and the nature of love. We're grateful for this opportunity to relinquish any blocks to love, relinquish any ideas of attack or any grievances, and to rest in the flow of love, knowing that the highest and the best is happening for us at all times, and we will trust that. We're grateful for this loving community and for all of our earthly and heavenly helpers. We ask that they surround and support us now, supporting this technology that we get to use to come together each week. And we're grateful that we get to share the blessings that we receive from each other, from all the heavenly realms, from the whole world with everyone, because we are one with them. In grace and gratitude, we let it be. And so it is. Amen. Amen. So we are in chapter 17, section 8, the condition of peace. Thank you, Leslie. Somehow I got it mixed up. I'm not going to claim any. I have no idea. It just happened. And I would like to welcome Melissa, joining us for the first time. So we're in the conditions of peace, and I just want to put some light on here because it's cloudy. There we go. So I love just at the very beginning where it felt like a promise of supreme happiness that he talks about earlier in the book. The holy instant is nothing more than an extreme example of what every situation is meant to be. And then later on in that first paragraph, the holy instant is a shining example, the clear and unequivocal demonstration of the meaning of every relationship and every situation seen as whole. Faith has accepted every aspect of the situation. It is a situation of perfect peace simply because you have let it be what it is. So that's it right there. Like when we give up trying to control and manipulate people and situations and wishing things were different, which is something I've been working with like forever, then the holy instant can be continuous. And wouldn't that be cool? Just to live in that, there's that lazy river that I try to think about. I'm just floating on the lazy river in a giant rubber inner tube, just watching the world go by. It just made me feel like a nice deep breath. Yeah. So I love that it started that way. I love that it started that way. Who else would like to share anything that they got? Leslie, and then Linda, and then I think Dawn.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. It's funny, Linda, I highlighted almost exactly every word that you just spoke of. And I did get to practice it this week, which is always my intention. I had an experience at my bank. We know I've had some bank stories in the past. And you know, I love that idea of floating down the river in your raft, because it's like, even if you happen to bump up against the bank or you get stuck on like a sandbar, you can just move and then you just continue. It doesn't have to mean anything. You know, you can still be in the flow. Okay, so I go to the bank. It's about 2 o'clock. I'm just going there to cash a check. It was like for $27. It was no big deal. I walked in and there's this man in front of me. And as soon as I walked in the building, it was like the energy just smacked me in the face. You know, it was very negative, and he was very hostile. He was very mad at this cashier. And he was really kind of yelling at her. So I just immediately started, and you know, I'm not just 6 feet back, I'm 12 feet back, because there's there's the X's on the floor. And I was like, okay, I need to protect my energy here, you know, and it was so cool, because I really felt like I was in a higher place just watching this happen. And part of me just wanted to laugh. It's like, dude, you're getting so upset and it doesn't mean anything. It's okay. You can see peace instead of this, you know? And and then he turned around and he faced me, and he didn't get in my face or anything, but he just made eye contact. He's like, I go to 4 different banks and this is the worst bank I've ever been to, and I absolutely hate this bank. And then he turned around, and my first thought was like, dude, I've had problems at this bank too, and yet we still keep on coming to the same bank. Let's be responsible here, you know. But I didn't say anything, you know, I just kind of looked at him. And then the manager came and started talking to him and the cashier, and I decided at that time I just gently turned around. I walked out of the bank and I didn't cash my check. And it was just such an interesting experience, because I really felt like I was above the battleground, so to speak. And us twos, you know, we always want to fix things, as you know, Linda. And it was kind of fun. I can't explain it. It's hard to really explain the experience, but reading that in the book, that last sentence, it is a situation of perfect peace simply because you have let it be what it is. And I let it be what it was. He was having a moment. It really had nothing to do with me. I was the observer. I didn't lose my peace about not getting to, you know, cash my check, and I was going to have to come back another day. It was just like, wow, he's really got his underwear in a bunch here. You know, he is really upset. And I just continued to say the whole poem of prayer for him on the rest of my walk. And that was a holy instant, right? Because I didn't lose my peace, even though he did, right? Okay, good. So
And you were holding that space for him. You know, you were in your mind, in your heart, you were saying, this need not be. You could be at peace instead of this.
Exactly. And the other interesting thing was, I got back to the office and I really wanted to talk about it. And I'm like, you know what? There's only one other person in the office, but I still wanted to share my experience. And I'm like, you know what, Leslie? She's just going to tell you what a jerky is. And I don't want to hear that. I want a spiritual perspective on it. I don't want to, because I was not judging him. I didn't think he was a jerk. I didn't think he was obnoxious. I was just like, wow, he's really into his story, because it just seemed so blown out of proportion. And I don't even know what he was upset about. I really don't. It's none of my business. Yeah. But I thought that was a really good catch that I didn't talk to my coworker about it, because I knew that would not be a spiritual take on it. We would just get to be, and then I would get into ego, and I did not want to get into ego.
Yeah,
so
that
was my story. Thank you.
That's a big win.
That was my story of the week.
Yeah, because we don't know what that poor man was going through. You know, maybe he just lost a loved one, or found out that somebody was very sick, or, you know, we have no idea what's going on in other people's lives. So giving him the benefit of the doubt, knowing that he was going through something, that's why it was being blown way out of proportion.
And he was about 70 years old, you know, and we all had masks on, and he's probably just as sick of this stuff as we all are sick of it. And I mean, I really felt bad for the teller, because she was really getting it, the brunt of it. And I mean, my other bank story, I'm not going to go into it, but basically I was a real bitch to the teller. So it was just so interesting that, and after talking to Robin about it and everything, I ended up bringing her flowers the next day. And it's like, I thought that with the man, I'm like, sir, you are going to regret this moment. You're going to feel terrible about it later, you know? So I did feel, I had compassion for everybody. And yet I was trying to listen to guidance, and I really didn't get, I just got to the idea that I should just leave.
Yeah.
You know, because it was very tense and it was none of my business, and I just decided to give him space. I mean, I was tempted to talk to him a little bit, but you know, so.
Yeah, you must not have been ready for it, or you would have done that. Hold on, Carlo. Linda was next, and then Dawn. Thank you, Leslie. Love your stories.
So, you know, to continue that paragraph 1, this simple courtesy, well, starting with 2, this simple courtesy is all the Holy Spirit asks of you. Let truth be what it is. Do not intrude upon it. Do not attack it. Do not interrupt its coming. And then I bump on over to the end of 3. The strain of refusing faith to truth is enormous and far greater than you realize. But to answer truth with faith entails no strain at all. To you who have acknowledged the call of your Redeemer, the strain of not responding to his call seems to be greater than before. So, you know, my pain is in my resistance. You know, that's this really, you know, let go or be dragged. You know, and I'm just really not interested in suffering. I just am not. As I see my brother, I see myself. As I treat my brother, I treat myself. I just am so over it. So it's just a matter of willingness. You know, in these last 2 paragraphs, really bring that home. I can't get out of here without you, whoever you are, whoever you, my grievances are, my special relationships are, my, you know, we will go hand in hand, or we're just going to sit here in pain and suffering and delay. And I'm no longer interested. So that's it.
Thank you, Linda. Yeah, I had that highlighted too and wrote next to it, how we create our own suffering.
Yes.
Paragraph 4. Thank you. Dawn.
Hi, good day.
Yeah.
So actually, I wasn't raising my hand technically, but since we're here, I had a lot of difficulty with the entire section or paragraph 5. Would you care to share thoughts about that? It's just, yeah, I've read it several times and it's just dense and difficult for me.
Yeah, that was a little dense for me as well when I read the beginning of it. But I was so grateful for that last sentence when he says his salvation is your only purpose. See only this in every situation, and it will be a means for bringing only this. So the, you know, the idea of the crucifixion of the Son of God, I mean, basically what he's seeing is that he did this to himself. Carla. You're still muted.
I was on a roll there last week. So I think it's exactly the example that Leslie was talking about in her bank story. He was crucifying himself by how he was choosing. So that what was what came to mind was I raised my hand is that I used to love the willingness. I am willing. Well, I have compassion. It wasn't a willing statement. I have compassion for my confusion. I'm like, and what came to my mind when you spoke is I have compassion for your confusion, for what appears like the confusion that you're in, right? And so it talks about the crucifixion of the Son of God. We're all the Son of God. And so anytime we choose anything less than love, we are crucifying ourselves, even though it looks like he was, whatever, to the teller, sending his energy there. The energy comes through us first. It's always us. We do first. We do anything. We pray, we love, we get upset, we judge. It comes through us first. And so his faithlessness did this to him. Think carefully before you let yourself choose as he chose. That's Mom using my words, but choose as he chose. And let yourself use his faithlessness, his choice against him. I don't know about the reason you haven't accepted. I don't know, but and that really goes back to what I was going to actually originally share about, as that I didn't read this section this week until just like half an hour ago, 5 minutes ago, whatever. But then this came out of me this morning, and it really pertains to, I think, paragraph 2. And this whole section is the conditions of peace. What are the conditions of peace? To consider it. Something in front of us is something, truth. To consider that. We don't have to see it. We don't have to line with it fully, just to be willing. So this is this thing. Truth can appear in a myriad of ways. You do not have to fully embrace it or even recognize it for what it is. Just consider it is possible, the truth, whatever the appearance is, and life will do the rest. And I think that's the second paragraph. The simple courtesy is what the Spirit, let truth be what it is. So do not intrude upon it. Do not attack it. Do not interrupt its coming. And that's what the ego thinking does. The truth is there. Be open to it, but then the ego mind intrudes upon it by placing a thought, the meaning, something in your mind, and if you focus on that, you miss the truth. There's all around us. It's like God doesn't wait to give you truth. He's always giving you truth all your life, all the time, in every situation. Somehow there's truth. I was going to say something else, but I think I was so impassioned by that. I forgot what it is, but so what are the conditions of peace? It's all through here, but it's the willingness to consider it, that what I thought was impossible, whatever the illusion is, maybe it's the truth. And just being shown to me by what they have chosen. That's how I know the truth. And so I was told, I think I've shared this before, when I was like 10 or something, that you're going to learn anything from everything. You're going to learn something from everything. I think that's what it was. And by seeing what other people are choosing, I'm learning. I'm learning by their choices. That's we're one. So, that's, I don't know if that helped. Paragraph 5, I got kind of away from a bit. His salvation is your only purpose. So to see his choice is how he's choosing to learn, to see the truth that is there. That is releasing the crucifixion. Thank you.
Did that help, Dawn?
Yes, thanks everyone for talking that out. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, what an example. Can you imagine going through the crucifixion and not thinking that this should not be? Or being somebody that loved Jesus and thinking this should not be, and not, just not having that thought. What an example for us. Leslie.
This is totally off the subject, but I wondered if we could all sing happy birthday to Penelope. Everybody, let's unmute. 1, 2.
You can, but it's not going to sound very good.
I know. Happy birthday to you. Happy
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Penelope. Happy birthday
to you.
and many more.
Penelope, I just want to say that I am so grateful that you were born and you do make a difference to the world. And I just love having you part of this group. Happy birthday.
Leslie, thank you. Thank you, everybody. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Happy birthday, friend. Thanks, Leslie. Anybody else have anything to share about the reading or Penelope's birthday? Carla, go ahead.
I got this time. So sometimes my eyes are just drawn to stuff. So I was drawn to your purpose has not changed and will not change, for you accepted what can never change. So I think we came here to be in a body. We came here because we accepted it. And so don't let the mind, the ego mind, the voice that speaks loudest and first, whatever, distract you from that purpose. That is why you came here. It's why we all came here. And that's what you all are. So I'm glad.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything? I mean, it was a very short reading, but it's packed full of stuff to think about. So does anybody else have anything they'd like to share about their experience or understanding of this reading?
I'll say
Robin. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think that's what we're beginning to practice is the what is. It just is, which is like this enormous different way of being in the world. And so I love this idea of just relaxing or resting into what is. And I'm finding out, or for me, the demonstration is to turn to the spiritual realm in every moment that I can remember and connecting to spirit. I've tried all this physical demonstration that hasn't worked very well or that causes more stress. And so right now in my process, this demonstration is the more I can let it be, let it go, and just let it be what is, and go towards always connecting and focusing on the light, and staying in that space, and allowing things to open up so that I can be inspired to walk physically on the earth and do what's truly helpful. So I don't, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robin. Amanda.
I love the bank story, kind of like catapulted like just all the scenario. Thank you, Leslie, again for another awesome analogy for us to draw our conclusions and understanding on, because it's just so perfect. And what Carla was explaining, you know, just everything in front of us having such a purpose of, or just, you know, just being curious, you know, wow, this is curious. What is this showing me, and how can I be a peaceful, how can, you know, how can I see peace instead of what I think I'm seeing? And, you know, even the things that seem disruptive or, you know, can bring great peace, like how you said, Leslie, you were it was hard to explain, you said for yourself how you almost felt this sense of peace underneath, like, because you were like, wow, it just was what it was, and I knew he was just reacting. And just like I've reacted in the past, and I was yelling at a teller, you know, days before or whatever, and that it doesn't mean anything. And that was just such a great learning, you know, in that moment, and something to be so grateful for, when you can be in that space. And I mean, more and more, I want, you know, I crave to be in that space to understand it like that. Like Linda was saying, other Linda, Linda with the stars over there. You know, you were saying how you just, you know, you're not interested in the alternative anymore. And that's kind of what's happening is I'm finding myself just, I'm not interested in that. And wow, the part about wanting to go back that you were talking about, Leslie, wanting to go back and you know, gossip about it, and how you know, were able to relinquish that. And that's really big, because I think too, as humans, that's like a big way that we connect with each other, you know, is just that, and this and that and this and that. And I mean, maybe especially women do that, you know. I'm sure everybody does that, but, you know, like, you know, to a point. But I think it is a way that we have a camaraderie, you know, and that's been something I talked about that in exactly what you were talking about, Leslie, there, with wanting to, you know, do that, and how you just realized, wow, you know, I'm not interested in having this person judge that person, and then all of a sudden we're going to be in an ego circle. We're going to be like hanging out with ego, and that you could see that so clearly, and just set that aside and be like, nah, it's not worth it. It's not, I don't need to tell that story. And here you are able to tell the story in such a beautiful way to us. That's big, you know. That's really big, because yeah, I had a breakout in one of the classes recently, where I was talking about, that's something that sometimes is hard for me to give up, is that, like, oh, I want to go back and, you know, and I find myself doing it sometimes, but I'm finding myself a little bit more and more in that situation where I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna bring that on and talk about how you know, look how good I was, and look at this, and this happened, and they were like that, you know. And
It's
because
not helpful, you know, it's just not helpful to do that. And I realize that it's like my prayer partner and I talked about this on Saturday. It's like, I do believe in that ego backlash. It's like you let the ego out, and all of a sudden, I really think that because I just left the bank and my day was fine. I had no other hiccups or bumps or anything. And I truly believe, had I gossiped like that, I would have let the ego out, and who knows what would have happened, because that ego is sneaky and very opportunistic, as you well know.
Yeah.
And I agree. It, you know, you're right. I mean, it is a way that we do communicate and we do connect, and yet
It's not helpful.
I'm willing to be truly helpful. Right? It's not helpful.
Mhm.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, I mean, it's beautiful. I think that that just really struck me, because that's something that I do, and I can only speak for myself. I'm sure many of us can absolutely relate with that, because how many times do we do that? I mean, that is just such a common thing. And I just think that I think that's profound. Really, as small as it might seem, it's gossip is so tempting. Gossip is so tempting. So I really appreciated that story. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Mary Rose.
Yes. Hi, Linda.
Hi.
It's really great to be here today, and hello, everybody, on this wonderful meeting. Yes, Leslie, your gift of bringing a story of applying the course in real life is just such a gift. I'm so glad, as you were telling the story, thinking about how I could relate to the ideas of the ways you applied it, of bringing it into manifestation. And then as I was listening, when Amanda was sharing just now about some of her uplifts from the story, one of them I really resonated with was Amanda said something like, I crave to be in a space like that. And that just feels so true for me too. Whenever I am in a space like that, it is the best. You know, that space to be of looking at that guy, having his issues, and not getting wrapped up in it, not getting wrapped up in my ego stories, but being able to be in that space of peace and spiritual strength and purpose, and knowing what I'm here for. So that, yeah, the story is so good. Helping give, I want to call it giving feet to my prayers. It gives me some concrete ways to give feet to my prayers. And then another thing that Amanda brought up that I really liked was pointing out how you avoided the temptation to gossip, and how much that is, you know, it just surrounds us. People that aren't, even people that are on somewhat of a spiritual path, or people who aren't, there's still, you know, that it can come up. I know it comes up less in spiritual circles, like a place like coming here. So this is such a great place to come, because it doesn't deteriorate into gossip. This coming here is like when you decided not to talk to the coworker, to me. I have to relate to my experience. It's like saying, coming to this meeting is, well, and that's exactly what you were talking about. Coming here, you know, talking about it here. And it's like, yeah, processing stuff in spiritual places with our spiritual companions helps so much. And I was reading from Alan Cohen's daily meditation book, A Deep Breath of Life. One of the readings was on, I think it was having to do with moving forward on our goals or our spiritual path in some form. And he talks about putting our foot on the gas and the brake at the same time when we set our spiritual goals, but then we find ourselves engaging in things like gossip. So that added another layer to it, to me, of meaningfulness, that very small seeming choice to not talk to your coworker. Oh, wow. I, as I'm saying it, I'm feeling it energetically. That feels like a huge choice. It was like keeping your foot on the gas, on the spiritual gas pedal, instead of putting it on the spiritual brake. And one other connection is Jennifer talking about from the Ho'opono class. I think that was that class. She talked about the prodigal son and comparing it to like a beloved dog who has spent time running around, playing, exploring all this stuff, and then deciding it feels so much better to come home and rest in the warm fire of home. It's like us leaving, the world of gossip and getting caught up in the ego drama and remembering, oh, it is better to come at home, to come be at home. So, yes, as I seek to apply the principles of the spiritual path, coming here is a good home. For me, it's a great home. It helps me apply the principles and take them out of the world of just mental ideas and put them into ideas I can actually live. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary, for sharing that.
Yeah, I was going to say thank you, Mary. I appreciate that. Both you and Amanda. It's funny because I didn't give myself kudos for not gossiping at all. I didn't think of that as being a big thing. But now after hearing you two speak, it's like, wow, that was kind of a big thing. And it's like, I didn't even tell my husband about it. I didn't come home and say, you'll never believe what happened to me at the bank today. I just didn't. I mean, I did tell my mom about it. She's my spiritual partner, and we, again, it was just like we're talking now. It was nothing negative. The only thing she said that was really cute was, she's like, I'm surprised, honey, that you didn't turn it around and say, do you need a hug? I'm a huge hugger, and not with COVID, I haven't been, but she's like, I can't believe you didn't say that. And I'm like, darn it, I should have said that. But yeah, it's, I guess, and it is something, I guess I have been practicing as far as not gossiping, because it's, my favorite thing about gossip is, and I've heard, you guys probably have heard this, but it's like, if you wouldn't say it to somebody's face, don't say it.
Right. Exactly.
True enough. That makes it easy.
Can you repeat that? My phone missed part of it.
Yep. Just if you're not sure if you are gossiping or not with somebody else, just ask yourself, would I say what I'm about to say to my friend to the person's face? So like if I were going to say, oh my gosh, you're not going to believe what an a-hole this man was at the bank. Would I say that to his face? No. Okay, then that would have been gossip. If I would have said, sir, and I mean, I don't think I could have said this, but sir, you can choose the peace of God instead of this. I mean, I don't think that would be gossip, but I don't think he could have heard me at that moment. He was he was distraught. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mary and Leslie. Phil, did you raise your hand?
I did.
All right.
And thanks everyone. And what struck me in this was number 3, para 3. Would you not want to make a holy instant of every situation? And I was like, sure, why not? I do. And Leslie, if you didn't get enough kudos, here's one more coming up for you. So when Leslie shared the story, what struck me was, that Leslie decided not to cash her check, but just turn around and go home or go back to the office. And I immediately thought, would I have done that? And, I might not be gossiping, but I'm a queen of gossip when it comes to, I would probably go, and my gossip is nonverbal. I would have shaken my head to the teller or rolled my eyes. And I feel that you really showed me that, just turning around and going, you did not engage with any of that. And that is what was the holy instant for me in every situation. So because, when I read this, I'm like, yeah, of course I do. I want everything to be holy in my life, but why it's not happening? So thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Carla, and then Linda.
Yeah, I was looking at that same line, Phil. Would you not mind to make a holy instant of every situation? And I realized, how would we make a holy instant of every situation? And that's it. Is bring love to every situation. That's how you make a holy instant out of every situation. So when she didn't want to gossip, she was looking at the motivation of her choice. If she wanted to just tell about it because she wanted to feel good about herself, or now she shared it because there's love in there. So there's the motivation so what I see is, in every situation, if you look for the motivation of your choice, you can see from that motivation what the holy instant, if it's love, right? And I think I've shared this with Penelope, and seemed like it was popular. Is that I'm posting on Instagram, this is one I post, is that choices are just choices until we decide they should have been different. Then they become judgments. So that's just how he chose to learn somehow. And then you responded to his choice with love, compassion, understanding, whatever it was. And then you made it in a holy instant by choosing that. So that's what came up for me.
Thank you, Carla. Linda.
So on the bank story, which, of course, I get a myriad of them all day long, But, two of the go-tos for me one is from Ken Wapnick, where, people have asked him, what do you do when, upset, conflict, whatever. One of his lines is, that way madness lies. And it's from Shakespeare. So he just has this little mantra that is a quick go-to in reference to the choice. And then, so I've adopted that, and that's very helpful. And then I think about the Lord's Prayer where, the line is, lead me not into temptation. This is what that's talking about to me. So that's another thing that kind of surfaces in my mind. Choose again, go the other way. So thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Franca.
Hi, I also want to share that I love learning by stories. And I think about Jesus that's how Jesus taught, right? He taught through parables, and people remembered the message of the story. So it's a great way to learn. So keep the stories coming. And when I read this passage, what really hit home for me was not to think that I had to do anything on my own, because I often forget to rise above the battlefield. Like, I have to remember to connect with spirit, because putting spirit in charge is the answer. Like, it's always the answer. And in paragraph 3, you know, like, would you want to make a holy instant of every situation? And then sentence 3, and then the power of the Holy Spirit's purpose is free to use instead. So if we turn to spirit for every little thing, then there's help. Because I am not as noble as a lot of you, I forget. And I always think of Robin. Like, whenever I think of connecting to the Holy Spirit, I always think of Robin, because she always says to pause and get quiet. So thank you, Robin, for that. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Franca. Go ahead, Leslie.
Well, I was just going to say thank you, Franca. I like to learn through stories too. And, you know, I think what really helped me be spiritual in a situation was, as soon as that energy hit me when I walked in, I started saying the Ho'oponopono prayer. It was just like my immediate go-to. And I think that helps me go down the spiritual path instead of the ego path, you know, and it's funny because I don't feel like I did anything, you know. It's like, because I didn't say anything. I didn't, you know, I wasn't, it's funny about Phil, when you said about rolling the eyes, I didn't do that. I did a calmly and peacefully, just was like, wow, they're having a moment, I'll come back another day. And I wasn't mad about having to come back. I mean, I just peacefully left, you know. And so I guess my question is how Jennifer says to hold the space. Was I holding the space even though I left? Yeah.
Yeah, because you already, you know, first of all, you were feeling that the gentleman was overreacting, and you were holding that he could have peace instead of this.
It's true.
And then in your leaving, again, I feel it's similar to what Phil was saying, that, you know, you may have gotten to the teller and there may have been some kind of back and forth that would have been a little gossipy or not quite as loving to either one of them. And so leaving at that moment was the most loving choice, is what I was feeling when you were talking about it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, my ego's always like, you could have done more. I appreciate. And Melissa, I know this is your first call. I feel bad. It's not all about the Leslie show, I promise. I just, it's nice that everybody's had these nice comments. So I just.
Yeah, I'm actually, that's resonating with me, because I had a similar experience at the auto parts store, and I went to get a battery, and it wasn't my situation. Like, the people who came in after, like, wanted to return something and didn't have a receipt. And so it was this back and forth between them. And the gentleman who was helping me was kind of getting involved and trying to engage me in that conversation. And I was just like, I'm good. I'm just here to get my battery. I'm not gonna, you know, add on to any gossip. And then you know, there were several instances where it, you know, it came up again while he was installing my battery, and I just kind of stepped out of it. But I don't know that how spiritually guided that was, and whether it was just me wanting, like, to focus on what I had to do that day versus, you know, having a more spiritual approach to it. But yeah, those stories, and, you know, what Phil said about, like, rolling the eyes, like, that's usually me. Like, I'm not a vocal person, but I think I'm catching myself more with reactions to different things, and my thoughts on those things and the judgments that come. Like, I'm catching those judgments, like, they're coming. I'm like, I see you. So it's really helpful to have these stories as well. So, you know, to just kind of process the whole thing. So thank you.
Thank you, Melissa. Good to hear your voice. I was going to add too, first of all, Franca, I've seen you be a spiritual warrior. So we've had conversations where I'm feeling you're being a spiritual warrior. So yeah, you're no further behind than any of the rest of us. Yeah. So just perish that thought. And I think it was Linda was talking about saying the Lord's Prayer. And I've been reading and hearing on podcasts more and more about this. And I think it's really helpful for us during these times where things are feeling a little upside down, is when we are saying prayers that we have memorized out loud, or we're chanting out loud, or we're saying mantras out loud, it actually has a very calming effect on us and can help us to alleviate anxiety, because it helps us to slow down our breathing. So it's like there's always science attached to this spiritual stuff that, you know, may not get explained all the time when we're having these discussions, but they're absolutely tied together. You know, the reason why we say the Lord's Prayer out loud at that certain pace or that certain cadence is because it helps us to breathe slowly and calm down. And that's the same with any prayer or chant that, or any passage of the course that you memorize. You know, if I can say, I'd like the peace of God instead of this, and just repeat that over and over and over again, I'm going to eventually just calm myself right down. So I just love when science and spirituality kind of come together. Amanda.
Oh, I was just going to say, it's come up several times, like just like with Linda and you and a few people have said, like the little things that come up in your head in the moment when we're doing this. Those are so precious to me. Like just like slogans. I think of them as like slogans, you know, like a little slogan that kind of saves you in the moment, you know, like just, yeah, I can have peace. I can see peace instead of this is one that I use, or I don't know what anything is for. I use that one sometimes, or, you know, just whatever the situation is, like sometimes the slogan just drops right in, like download, like, you know, and I'm all like, yes. So I really love that. I love that we and it happens more when you're working the program and when you're having these discussions with your spiritual community often, and so I'm so happy I signed on this year to do this, because I've been wanting to do it for a couple of years, and wow, this was the year to do it for sure. And but yeah, just those are like little precious tools, you know, that just get dropped in right at the right time sometimes, and they happen more often when I'm, you know, really redoing the work. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. Carla, very short, because I'd like to give Penelope the last word before we close out.
Okay, I want to say that in response, I think, to the inquiry a bit, and I'm going to say, what is forgiveness? It says in page 4:1, forgiveness, on the other hand, is still and quietly does nothing. It offends no aspect of reality, nor seeks to twist it to appearances it likes. It merely looks and waits and judges not. That's all.
Thank you, Carla. Miss Penelope, I would just love to give you the last word for your birthday.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm feeling a little embarrassed.
I mean to embarrass you.
There was something actually that happened on Sunday and it's like I'm listening to you all speak and I think, oh, gee, I wasn't in a spiritual place on Sunday. It was, and it's interesting. I think I've said this to Linda in recent times. For some reason, and I don't know what's happening, when I'm reading, and it's possibly because I'm kind of short of time sometimes to read this text, and I'm finding that I'm not getting any bites from it. It's like, and so I oftentimes now when I'm on this call, I'm feeling a little bit uncomfortable because I'm not actually speaking or saying anything. But it's like for some reason, when I read this text, there's nothing I'm really so I don't know what's happening there. I'm just conscious of the times. I don't know if I can just share actually this situation that happened for me on Sunday. It was actually my husband's birthday on Sunday and we went out for lunch and we couldn't find, we're kind of limited to restaurants because I need it to be gluten-free. And there was nothing that was open still in my area. And the one restaurant that was open out, it was an Indian restaurant and I really wasn't fancying eating Indian restaurant. So we actually drove an hour to have lunch at a hotel that we've had experience over the years. We actually got married at this hotel about 10 years ago. And over the time that we've been going, which is probably since around 2003 on and off, we've had quite a lot of experiences where it can be tricky with either the service or getting food for me. And many years ago, I mean, I was in ending up writing to the top person at this hotel group because it was the most simplest of things just for me to have some gluten-free bread, say, at breakfast, and they couldn't provide it. And so this has been an ongoing thing. So sometimes we don't go for long periods of time because we don't want to be in this situation. So we went on Sunday and we hadn't been probably for 2, 3, I don't know, quite a few years. And it was really interesting because of course the way that even the restaurant area has had to be changed to accommodate the COVID situation. So it actually makes it very clinical. And this kind of venue, both the hotel, it's only a small boutique style hotel, and it has stunning views over the fells and river in a really beautiful part of Yorkshire in the UK where I'm from. And it had no atmosphere, and all the kookiness of this hotel was it was as if the soul had been taken out of this hotel. And so we were placed in this area which would normally be it was like a kind of a conservatory, but normally there'd be a lot more tables, but there were literally 3 tables in this conservatory and it being painted out in brilliant white, and it was just really so clinical, and it was very cold in there. And there was another couple at one of the other hotels, and right from the beginning they were complaining. And by the time we'd actually reached this hotel, I'd got a headache. I've been experiencing headaches a lot recently. And we'd rung up and we'd booked it and we said, you sure you can cater for me for the gluten-free? And then the first thing was when we began to have the conversation with the person that was serving us was, no, there wasn't any gluten-free bread and there wasn't this and there wasn't that. And it was like, oh, wow, here we go again kind of thing. And then eventually that was changed. Oh no, we've got some, we've found some that we, in the freezer, etc., etc. But then there was limited things that were available for me, and the service wasn't great. And altogether from arriving and leaving there, it was something like 2 to 3 hours. So the service, there was huge gaps in the service, and it really felt quite uncomfortable. And so I said to my husband, I really don't want to say anything where we were, because already this couple were complaining. And in the end, it was apparent that they were not going to be charged for the meal. And I didn't want to be in that kind of situation. And I said, if we say anything, I said, I really would like to do it quietly. And so we got the opportunity to just speak quietly with someone that was in charge overall that day. And he'd actually come on duty at some point part way. And he actually acknowledged that the team were not actually flowing. He could, as soon as he walked in, he recognized the team were not flowing. And so we left there, and by this time I was feeling pretty unwell, and it still bothered me that this is kind of an ongoing thing that I keep encountering, that over here in the UK where there isn't the availability for food for me, and I can come away feeling pretty upset about it, in the sense of I wish we hadn't gone, and it's uncomfortable and all these things. And I've looked at it before, and I was looking at it recently, and there was some unworthiness related to it, about unworthiness around not actually having what I would like. But I wanted to look at it again because I really did feel pretty unhappy about it again, given that we'd driven the hour and it was my husband's birthday as well, etc., etc. And so I did this forgiveness work around it, and it was really fascinating to uncover that. And the first part of it was about specialness, and the specialness actually related to wanting to feel happy and content. And it's interesting how, you know, it's like at first, my first thought, that's interesting. It's like happy and content, I wouldn't think is specialness, but actually when we're attached to wanting happiness, or to be satisfied or content with something, it's specialness is running. And I realized that in this moment as I was doing this forgiveness work. And then I went further into it and like looked, well, so it's like, well, if I'm not content and I'm not happy, I'm dissatisfied. Where's the dissatisfaction coming? The dissatisfaction is coming from that belief in the unconscious guilt, and the belief in the sin, and not feeling like I've done something wrong. And it kind of all went back to this. So it was really interesting to uncover this. And I wish I could have done like Leslie did and just held my peace, and I didn't feel peaceful. I felt quite irritated during this lunch. So I'm owning up to that. But thank you everyone, and thank you again to Leslie for asking everyone to sing to me, and thank you for everyone's shares. And I'm just trusting that somewhere in one of these weeks, this text is going to really speak to me, and I'm going to have more to say. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Penelope. And I can relate to what you're sharing about the text, because I mean, this was not even a page and a half, and it took me probably an hour and a half to read it, because I would read part of it and I would be like, what did that say? I mean, and I feel, and maybe I should stop saying this, but it's like this COVID brain thing is happening, where I can't remember things and I can't focus on things. And, you know, I don't really want to energize that that's what's happening, but that's all I can think of, because I'm not normally that forgetful. And I think it's just like, because everything is so different. You know, my husband and I are here almost all the time, all day long, 24/7. We're both working from home. Like all of the classes that I used to take or teach are all online. And like the world feels like it's just been turned upside down. So I'm going to be okay with if I have to take an hour and a half to read less than a page and a half in the book. And I hope that you can be that kind to yourself as well. But I love that you recognize that feeling of specialness. Like if I'm not happy and content with what's going on, then something is wrong. And that makes, you know, I'm special, so I should be able to. So I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. So for next week, we're going to do chapter 18. Section 1, the passing of the dream, the substitute reality. So we'll see how that goes. And hold on a second.
Linda, I just want to thank you for having us read one section at a time, because this is just one of the tools we're using, or our practice, and it takes a long time to read one vignette.
Yes.
And so I'm just so appreciative that you're only doing it one. And even if I said, oh, this is really short. And I was right there with you, like taking so long.
Yeah, why does it take so long still to read it? Yeah.
So
hang on a second, because I don't have my, I thought I had it. My tablet where I usually have the Pathways of Light passage. Here we go. So insights from Pathways of Light for lesson 209, which is, I feel the love of God within me now. And I am not a body, I am free. It's one of the review lessons. I feel the love of God when I recognize that the love of God is everywhere and is eternal. The love of God is all that is. Receiving and giving the love of God is all that can be truly received and given. Inherent in accepting the love of God is giving the love of God. Inherent in accepting and giving the love of God is feeling the love of God. There is only one love, and this love is universal. It is continuous. It is always present. It is all that is real. We all are mind that lives in the eternal and ever-present love of God. Experiencing the love of God is what is natural. In fact, it is the only natural thing in the world. It is the only reality. Anything outside of God's love is illusion. Accepting and giving the love of God is really all we can ever do, because it is all we ever are. It is our life. It is our totality. It is our very beingness. It is our one self. Am I willing to accept and give my one self today? Today is for practice in accepting and giving the love of God. Nothing else is more important, because nothing else is real. When I identify with being a body in the world of separate bodies and forms, I am identifying with the ego's attempt to limit love. The ego is the idea of rejecting the equality, the all-inclusiveness and limitlessness of God's love. This is why it is important to proclaim again and again until I fully believe that I am not a body, I am free, I am still as God created me. Love cannot be limited and be itself. Thus, I cannot feel the love of God within me as long as I believe in a limited image of myself. Because God's love is limitless, it is His love within me, that sets me free. Love is forever extending to know my freedom in God's love. I must extend His love equally and unequivocally. That is the only way love can be extended. It is the only way I can know God's love, feel it, and know myself. The body is not what I am. I do not have to accept the ego's purpose of limitation for the body. As I disidentify with the body as what I am free to give it a different purpose. As I strengthen my identification with the love of God as what I am, the body's purpose now becomes to me to be the means by which I extend His love to all my brothers. The body then becomes His voice, His hands, His feet to carry and express His love to all who believe they are limited by a body. As I use the body to teach love, I learn that I am love. The love of God within me sets me free. I remember I am still as God created me. Amen. Thank you, everybody. So good to see you all. See you next week.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Much
Thank
love.
you.
Bye for now.
Thank you.
Penelope, I love that you keep coming back. That's awesome. you have the belief.
Yeah.
You know, that's very cool.
Thank you, Dawn. That's a beautiful way of looking at it. Thank you. I'll hang in there.
Please do.
Yeah.
Great willingness.
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you. Oh, you're so beautiful to me, you lot.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.